Sit quietly and listen, not with your ears alone, but with the space within you where truth settles like still water. There are moments in life when everything feels heavy, when unseen forces seem to pull your steps backward. You call it bad luck. You search outside asking why the road has become rough. But the wise know this: what you experience as misfortune often begins as disturbance within. When the inner field is restless, even gentle winds feel like storms. Salt, though simple, carries a silent teaching. It does not shine like gold, nor does it boast like jewels, yet it preserves, it purifies, it protects. It reminds us that the smallest elements can hold the deepest power when used with awareness. To begin this ritual, do not rush. Stand still. Let your breath become slow and steady. Inhale as if drawing calm into your being, and exhale as if releasing all that is heavy and unseen. When the mind becomes quiet, take a small amount of salt into your hand. Feel its texture. Each grain is like a moment of your life, small yet meaningful when gathered together. As you hold the salt, do not think of fear. Do not think of what you want to escape. Instead, become aware of what you are ready to release. There is a difference. To run from darkness is to give it power. To let go of it is to dissolve it. Gently move the salt around your body or place it in the corners of your space. As you do this, remain mindful. Imagine that every grain is absorbing the weight you have been carrying: worry, doubt, resentment, unseen tension. Do not force this belief. Simply allow it, the way you allow a river to flow without pushing it. In this act, the ritual is not in the salt itself, but in your awareness. Without awareness, even sacred acts become empty. With awareness, even the simplest act becomes transformation. When you have finished, release the salt. Do not cling to it. Throw it away or wash it off with water, understanding that what it symbolized has also been released from within you. In this moment, feel light. Not because something magical has been added, but because something unnecessary has been removed. Good fortune does not arrive as a reward from the outside. It arises naturally when there is clarity within. When the mind is no longer clouded, decisions become wiser. When the heart is no longer burdened, actions become lighter. And when your actions are aligned, life begins to flow with less resistance. This is what you call attracting good fortune. But in truth, you are not attracting anything. You are simply removing the barriers that were blocking what was always ready to come. Remember this: no ritual, no object, no external act has power over your life unless your awareness gives it meaning. Salt is a guide, not a master. The true shift happens within you. Walk forward with this understanding. Keep your mind clear, your intentions steady, and your actions gentle. When you live this way, even in the midst of uncertainty, you will notice something change. The path will not become perfect, but you will no longer feel lost upon it. And that is the beginning of true good fortune. Bad luck begins within, not outside. What we call misfortune often comes from inner imbalance, stress, and negative thoughts, not external forces alone. What you often call bad luck does not begin in the world outside you. It quietly takes root within your own mind and heart. When your thoughts are scattered, when your emotions are burdened with fear, doubt, or resentment, even the simplest path begins to feel difficult. A small delay feels like a great obstacle. A minor loss feels like a deep misfortune. In this way, the inner state colors the outer experience. Two people may walk the same road, yet one feels cursed by it while the other moves through it with ease. The difference is not in the road, but in the one who walks it. When the mind holds tension, it begins to expect problems. This expectation shapes your awareness. You start noticing only what goes wrong while ignoring what is still working in your favor. Gradually, this focus strengthens the illusion that life itself is against you. But life does not choose sides. It simply responds to the way you meet it. If you approach it with heaviness, everything feels heavy. If you approach it with clarity, even challenges begin to appear as lessons rather than punishments. This is why it is important to understand that misfortune is not always an external force acting upon you. Often, it is a reflection of inner imbalance. When the mind is restless, decisions become unclear. When decisions are unclear, actions become misaligned. And when actions are misaligned, outcomes naturally feel unfavorable. What you call bad luck is sometimes just the natural result of a mind that is not at ease. But this realization is not meant to blame you, it is meant to free you. Because if the disturbance begins within, then it can also be resolved within. You do not need to control the entire world to change your experience of it. You only need to bring awareness to your inner state. Even a small shift in how you see things can begin to transform what you experience. When you pause and observe your thoughts without immediately believing them, you create space. In that space, clarity begins to grow. You start to see that not every worry is true, not every fear is necessary. Slowly, the grip of negativity loosens. The same situations that once felt overwhelming begin to lose their weight. This is not because the world has changed, but because your relationship with it has changed. In this way, what you once called bad luck starts to dissolve. Not because you have forced it away, but because you have stopped feeding it with unconscious thoughts and reactions. The more balanced your inner state becomes, the more naturally your life begins to flow. You make better choices, you respond instead of react, and you move with awareness instead of confusion. This is the quiet truth: the outer world mirrors the inner condition. When you bring peace within, you begin to notice that what once seemed like misfortune was often just a reflection of inner unrest. And as that unrest fades, so too does the feeling that life is working against you. Salt is a symbol of purification, not magic. Salt represents cleansing and protection, but its real power comes from mindful intention, not the object itself. Salt has long been seen as something ordinary, something that sits quietly in the corners of daily life without asking for attention. Yet within its simplicity lies a quiet lesson about the nature of power. It does not try to impress, it does not demand recognition, and still it fulfills its purpose completely. It preserves what would otherwise decay, it cleanses what feels impure, and it balances what is out of harmony. In this way, salt becomes more than a substance. It becomes a reminder that true strength is often found in what appears small and unnoticed. When people look at rituals, they often search for something mystical, something extraordinary that will instantly change their circumstances. But the deeper teaching is not about magic, it is about meaning. Salt does not carry power because of what it is made of alone, it carries power because of what it represents in your awareness. When you hold it with intention, it becomes a symbol of your willingness to cleanse, to release, and to restore balance within yourself. The mind is always shaping reality through perception. If you believe an object has meaning, that belief directs your focus, and your focus begins to influence your inner state. This is why something as simple as salt can feel powerful when used with clarity and presence. It is not transforming the world around you in a supernatural way, it is gently guiding your mind back into alignment. And when the mind is aligned, everything begins to feel different. There is a quiet humility in using something so simple for a ritual. It teaches you not to rely on grand tools or complicated methods. Instead, it invites you to see that transformation does not require complexity. Often it is the simple acts done with full awareness that create the deepest shifts. When you pick up salt and treat it with care, you are not just holding grains, you are holding a moment of intention. You are choosing to pause, to become present, and to bring attention to what is usually ignored. In that moment, the ritual begins to work, not because the salt is doing something extraordinary, but because you are no longer moving through life unconsciously. You are no longer reacting automatically to stress, fear, or negativity. Instead, you are choosing to engage with your experience in a mindful way. The salt becomes a bridge connecting your physical action with your inner awareness. This understanding removes fear and replaces it with clarity. You no longer depend on objects to control your life, nor do you dismiss them as meaningless. You see them for what they are: tools that can support your awareness when used wisely. Salt, in its quiet presence, teaches balance. It reminds you that power does not need to be loud to be real. As you begin to understand this, you also begin to see that the world is full of such symbols waiting to be noticed. Every simple thing can carry meaning if your awareness is awake. And when your awareness is awake, even the smallest ritual becomes an opportunity to return to yourself, to cleanse what is heavy, and to restore a sense of calm and balance that was never truly lost. Awareness is the true ritual. The effectiveness of any ritual depends on your presence, calmness, and clarity, not just the physical action. The true essence of any ritual is not found in the movement of the hands, but in the presence of the mind. Without awareness, even the most sacred act becomes empty, like a body without breath. A person may repeat actions again and again, place objects with precision, follow every step exactly as taught, and still feel no change within. This is because the outer act, no matter how perfect, cannot replace the inner state. It is awareness that gives life to action, just as intention gives direction to a path. When you act without awareness, you move like a leaf carried by the wind. Your hands may be doing something meaningful, but your mind is elsewhere, lost in worry, distracted by thoughts, or caught in past and future. In such a state, the ritual becomes mechanical. It may give a temporary sense of comfort, but it does not create transformation. True change requires your full presence, a quiet attention that observes each moment without rushing through it. Awareness begins with something very simple: noticing. Noticing your breath as it moves in and out, noticing the sensation of your body as it stands or sits, noticing the thoughts that arise without immediately believing them. This kind of attention is gentle, not forced. It does not try to control the mind, but simply watches it with patience. In that watching, the mind begins to settle on its own, like muddy water becoming clear when left undisturbed. When you bring this awareness into a ritual, everything changes. The act of holding salt is no longer just a physical gesture. You feel its texture, its weight, its presence in your hand. You are not rushing to finish, you are fully there, allowing each moment to unfold. As you move, you are aware of your intention to release what is heavy, to create space within. This awareness transforms the act into something deeper than routine. It becomes a moment of connection with yourself. It is gathered, steady, and clear, and when the mind is clear, it has a natural ability to let go. You do not need to force yourself to release negativity, it begins to fall away on its own, just as leaves fall from a tree when their time has passed. Awareness creates the conditions for this to happen. It is like light entering a dark room. Nothing needs to be pushed out. The darkness simply disappears. This is why awareness is the heart of the ritual. Without it, you may repeat the act many times and still feel unchanged. With it, even a single moment can bring a shift. You begin to see that the ritual is not something separate from you. It is a reflection of your inner state. The more present you are, the more meaningful it becomes. Over time, this awareness extends beyond the ritual itself. You begin to carry it into your daily life, into your words, your actions, your decisions. You become less reactive and more attentive. And in that attentiveness, life starts to feel less chaotic and more balanced. What once seemed complicated begins to feel simple. In this way, awareness reveals its quiet power. It shows you that transformation is not found in doing more, but in being more present with what you do. And when presence becomes a part of your life, every action, no matter how small, becomes an opportunity for clarity, calm, and true change. Letting go removes negativity. The ritual works by helping you release fear, doubt, and emotional weight rather than fighting or fearing them. There is a subtle difference between resisting something and releasing it, yet this difference changes everything. When you resist negativity, you give it attention, energy, and importance. You tighten around it, thinking that by pushing it away, you will be free from it. But what you push against often pushes back. The more you fight a thought, a fear, or a feeling, the more it lingers. It becomes stronger, not because it has power of its own, but because your resistance feeds it. Letting go moves in a different direction. It is not an act of force, but an act of understanding. It begins when you stop seeing negativity as something you must battle and start seeing it as something you can observe without attachment. A fearful thought may arise, a heavy emotion may pass through you. But instead of holding on to it or trying to crush it, you allow it to be there for a moment without giving it a home. This does not mean you accept negativity as your truth. It means you stop clinging to it. There is a quiet strength in this. Imagine holding a handful of sand tightly in your fist. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hand, the sand rests lightly, and you are free to let it fall when you choose. In the same way, your thoughts and emotions behave differently when you stop gripping them with fear. The ritual with salt becomes a reflection of this inner process. As you move the salt or place it around you, you are not trying to force away bad luck as if it were an enemy. Instead, you are acknowledging what feels heavy within you and gently choosing to release it. Each grain becomes a symbol of something you no longer wish to carry: worry that has no solution, guilt that has no purpose, doubt that holds you back from moving forward. As you continue this act with awareness, something begins to shift. The mind, which was once tense and crowded, starts to feel lighter. Not because every problem has disappeared, but because you are no longer holding on to them in the same way. You begin to see that many of your burdens were not created by the situation itself, but by your attachment to it, your need to control, to predict, to resist what is already happening. When you release this attachment, you create space within yourself. In that space, clarity can arise. You are able to see situations more calmly, respond more wisely, and move forward without the weight of constant inner struggle. This is the quiet power of letting go. It does not change the world instantly, but it changes how you meet the world, and that changes everything. Over time, this practice becomes natural. You begin to notice when you are holding on to something unnecessarily. You catch yourself in moments of tension and gently loosen your grip. Life still brings challenges, but they no longer feel like chains. They become passing experiences, moving through you rather than settling within you. In this way, the act of releasing becomes a form of freedom. You are no longer controlled by every thought or emotion that arises. You become like the sky, allowing clouds to pass without becoming them. And as this understanding deepens, you realize that true peace was never about eliminating all negativity, but about no longer being bound by it. Good fortune flows from inner clarity. When your mind is clear and balanced, your actions improve, and life naturally becomes smoother and more positive. What you call good fortune is often imagined as something that arrives from outside, like a gift placed into your hands by unseen forces. You wait for it, hope for it, and sometimes chase it, believing that when it comes, everything will finally feel right. But this way of seeing keeps you dependent on circumstances that are never fully in your control. It creates a cycle of expectation and disappointment, where your sense of well-being rises and falls with whatever happens around you. There is another way to understand good fortune, one that does not depend on chance or external approval. It begins within you, in the state of your mind and the clarity of your awareness. When your thoughts are calm and your perception is not clouded by fear or confusion, you begin to see life more clearly. This clarity naturally influences the choices you make. You respond instead of reacting, you pause instead of rushing, and you act with intention instead of impulse. From these small shifts, your path begins to change. Decisions made with clarity tend to lead to better outcomes. Actions taken with balance create fewer regrets. Relationships approached with openness become more harmonious. None of this happens because luck has suddenly chosen you, but because you are no longer working against yourself. The obstacles that once seemed like bad fortune begin to reveal themselves as moments where you are simply not aligned within. When the mind is clouded, even opportunities can be missed. You may overlook something valuable, misjudge a situation, or act in a way that closes doors. Later, it feels as though life has been unfair. But when the mind is clear, you begin to notice possibilities that were always there. You recognize the right moment to act, the right moment to wait, and the right moment to let go. This sensitivity to life is what people often describe as being lucky, but in truth, it is the result of awareness. Good fortune, then, is not something you attract like a magnet pulling objects toward you. It is something that flows naturally when there are no inner barriers blocking it. Fear, doubt, and constant overthinking act like walls, preventing you from seeing and receiving what is already present. When these walls begin to dissolve, life feels more open. You move with it rather than against it. The ritual you perform is simply a reminder of this deeper truth. It helps you pause, clear your mind, and reconnect with a state of inner balance. But the real transformation does not stay within the ritual. It continues in how you live afterward. Each moment becomes an opportunity to maintain that clarity, to act with awareness, and to remain steady even when circumstances change. Over time, this way of living creates a quiet confidence. You no longer depend on luck to feel secure. You trust your ability to meet whatever comes with a clear and steady mind. And in that trust, life begins to feel less uncertain and more supportive. This is the nature of true good fortune. It is not something that suddenly appears, but something that gradually reveals itself as you remove the confusion within. When your mind is clear and your actions are aligned, what once felt like chance begins to feel like flow. And in that flow, you discover that what you were seeking was never separate from you. It was waiting for you to see clearly.